What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Failure to Communicate. Look at that. We already starting off in sync. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
What he do?
Look, y'all, we got lights. Let there be lights. Hallelujah.
In the house.
I think you all can see us and you can hear us. So we got sound and light for the win today. All right. Well, again, welcome back. We are your favorite uncoupled couple.
Absolutely.
I am Joy M. Hutton.
And I'm Jay Bradley.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, welcome, guys. Come on in.
Come on in, sit on down.
in.
And we got a chat today. We have an interesting chat today.
We do.
I didn't realize until we kind of went through the show notes that this is something that we've personally gone through.
Absolutely.
On camera.
Yeah, on camera and off camera. And so the episode today is called We Gonna Be All Right. We are talking about trauma and dark times in relationships, how you deal with things, you know, how you deal with job loss, how you deal with, death, how do you deal with stress in general? You know, and I think it's important to talk about those things because when it hits you, and it's like it could either make or break a relationship. And
we'll get to this, but it's super important that each other knows what the other person needs in that moment. Because you could be supporting somebody one way, and because they need this and y'all haven't talked about it, then they feel unsupported, unloved, and then you have, divorce, got attorneys being called, all the above. But simple conversations up front can be had to where you don't end up with that.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to it. This is kind of this is close to home for us.
It
might be some side eyes towards my direction later. What I did and didn't do.
I mean, no, but it all comes down to communication.
Yeah.
That's why this is called failure to communicate. Because if you are, for instance, I would tell you, don't make a decision for me. Let me tell you what I need.
You've said that.
I have, because you're like, well, I'm going to make the decision for you. I felt like, and I'm like, how you going to tell me what I need?
But that's perfect, though, because we literally had a relationship that was 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
Right? And then something major happened. And we weren't even dating exclusively for 3 weeks.
Right.
This is while we were dating other people. Don't look at me like you wouldn't be getting sang to and having dates and all that. See how one-sided her recollection is.
You talking about on or off the show?
Look. I'm talking about both.
On the show.
Talking about both.
Okay.
I'm talking about both.
All
Hence,
right.
therefore, and forevermore.
Okay.
So back to the soap topic
Again,
and stop.
failure
See,
to
look, you always look. This is. Why is it always, as long as I don't get hit today, there's always some episode of violence in each episode. I just want my men's support group.
Listen, but again, failure to communicate, because who knows? You might think you all are dating exclusively, and the other person is like, I didn't say that. So those are conversations one needs to have with each other. So, anyway,
I feel like that was a side-eye segue.
I said nothing.
You said a lot.
I didn't say you, right?
Okay. All right.
I didn't say you, but yeah, I think communicating what you need, but also the person receiving what you say and still not making decisions for you. Because if I say, I need you to be present, for example, but then you interpret that a completely different way, then there's a breakdown in communication. Yeah. And then things are left to the imagination because you're like, well, you weren't there for me when I needed you, and you didn't call me, I didn't see you. And then what I don't like is when people are like, well, I was just giving you your space, but did I ask for space? I don't like that. Don't make that decision for me.
But I always go for the other side, which I'm assuming is the male side in this situation.
Let's hear it.
So in that situation, I need you to communicate exactly what you need from me, because we're both operating under the umbrella of assumption, which can lead everything astray, right? So if I don't hear, and I don't want to ask because you got other stuff going on, right?
But you should ask.
It feels weird.
Yeah, but you
From
have
my
to. It's
perspective.
having those hard conversations,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
and that's a part of being in a relationship. And when you're going through dark times, which is why we're talking about this today, you have to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
because what happens when I lose my job and I can't support the family anymore? What's that going to look like? How do we make that shift? Because if I'm, as a man, if you still walk around macho and and
That's a whole nother
you
financial
know.
conversation because as a real estate broker, when I sit down with people and we look at what they're going to afford, you get this pre-approval. Oh, you can afford a $700,000 house with both y'all incomes. What if you lose one of those incomes?
Exactly.
What if the other person says, you know what, I'm tired of working my job. I want to go be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But yet now you financially obligated yourselves off of both incomes. So just a small segue, because finances, when, we've both been through divorce, and I asked my attorney and I asked my counselor, why, what, and 90-something% of marriages fail because of money.
Yes.
And I think it's really the communication about money.
About money. And I think it's also how each party perceives money, because depending on how you grew up and your relationship with money, that determines things too. When you do face difficult situations with money, if there's job loss or, what bills are we going to pay? How are we going to split the bills? Things like that. But especially when a job loss occurs. And then I think for a man, and you can speak to this, if you lose your job, that's a blow to your ego because you feel like you can't support the family.
Yeah.
But if you have a woman that can support you, but then that causes tension in relationships too. So it's like, how do you talk through that?
So from a man's perspective, I've had male friends that have, they've lost their job and then the wife really kind of goes into overdrive in supporting him. And that's when they've talked to me, man, I got the dopest wife. And they will push through that because now you have somebody that's not on your back, but that has your back.
Exactly.
And so when a man gets in a situation to where our ego, look, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't care how much swagger dagging, ego muscles, beard game and all that stuff.
Right.
We want to still feel supported, but we will almost never come to you and say, we want to be supported. We need to feel it and see it.
Yeah.
So for me, because I have a very nurturing mother. And so I will look for somebody that has that nurturing spirit.
Right.
And so that way, because there's always going to be a time where stuff ain't always 100% right.
Absolutely.
It may not be in the public eye. We always looking at everybody's, finished, product that they put online.
Right. Yeah.
That is not the real deal.
That is not reality.
Not the real deal.
They say Instagram versus reality.
Right. Everybody goes through struggles.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
how are we going to go through these struggles together and support each other? But from a man's perspective, like I said, we'll be quiet. We'll just kind of, most of the time, we'll either do one of two things. Go into a depression, okay, where we withdraw.
Yeah.
Or we will heavily pursue rectifying whatever the issue is.
Absolutely.
Brother filling out 20 applications a day,
Right.
he might be at Mickey D's and Taco
Do
Bell
something
for 3
about
weeks.
it. Right.
He's going into action because he wants to
Yeah.
recover that piece of himself that he felt like he lost. And then other brothers will stay stuck into it. And I feel like that's another conversation where you have to know your man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about from a woman's perspective though? Like what's that look like? If you were in a relationship, you got 5 jobs, so you're gonna have 4 of them still popping.
Listen, the thing is support at the end of the day. Don't beat a dead horse. Like I think I've had relationships, I can't even say relationships because I haven't. Well, I guess you can still call it a relationship even though you're not together. Right. But I've dated people where it's like, okay, if I'm going through a stressful time, because entrepreneurship is up and down, and it's like, I don't need you to tell me, yeah, well, maybe you should just consider getting a job. That's not the first thing I need to hear. Can you help me troubleshoot this? Because I don't, and I was telling you this the other day, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because and when you're going through a stressful time, you're already fragile. Yeah. And then when you got somebody just being cynical and judgmental, that does not help the situation. Yeah. So it's like, I need love in that moment. And sometimes tough love is cool, but you got to read the room. You can't just be like, listen, why don't you go work at McDonald's? You could get a job. Well, listen, that's not really what I want to hear in that moment. Like, can we troubleshoot this? And sometimes there are situations where you talk through with your partner, you talk through a situation with your partner, you don't always want a solution. Yeah. You just want them to listen. So you have that. And the communication is very tricky because it's like all these unwritten rules. Because they're like, but you wanted me to say something. Well, I didn't want you to say anything that time. I just want you to listen. And I know men be like, so do I. But ask, right. Do you want me to help you figure this out? Or do you just want me to listen? Because I've had partners do that too. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you asked me that. Yeah. Because I just want you to listen in this moment. Because some people are fixer personalities.
Yeah. I feel like I as entrepreneurs, mm-hmm. we get paid to solve problems.
Yeah.
Okay. We are marketers mm-hmm. and problem solvers.
Yeah.
And we flip-flop between those roles and work them simultaneously throughout every day. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I've found myself, I guess, in more relationships with women that have a more entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Because we go into problem solving rather than sticking in the problem quickly. Mm-hmm. So my process from problem to, all right, where's the resolution, is probably about 20% on the problem and 80% is focused on solving the problem. Like, I don't need to, okay, cool, here's how I'm feeling, blah, 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 and then all right, man, I got, like the other day. Mm-hmm. All right, so transparency moment. 2 episodes ago, we had a lot of technical issues, and I was in my feelings.
That baby
was
pouting.
And I didn't realize it. I try to control my energy, and I didn't realize it. And sometimes that just happens. Like, we have an amazing tech. I appreciate you, man. And he, does a great job. But sometimes lighting is going to be off, and this and that. And so we want to put together a great product that people can see and learn from, and we can grow in, and everybody in the community grows. Long story short, I was so frustrated after the episode. I was defeated. I haven't had Mexican food in like 2 years. I went and got, you had a quesadilla.
Yeah.
I had, what did I get? We won't eat there again.
Yeah, we're not even going to say the restaurant, but
I had a margarita. I hadn't had one of those in like a year. I had a jumbo margarita.
Are you sure?
I was eating through my feelings.
Right.
But once we sat down, she's like, you'll be all right, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, look, I just want to do this. I want to do this. And I spent probably 10% in the problem and 90% in the actual solution. And once we came with the solution, I was fine. Right. So it meant that I needed to get here earlier and then do this. And I bought some more lights and blah, 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 blah. And that was me solving it. So you have to know your partner and what they need in situations.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, you could be providing the wrong solution and then they feel unheard, which is the worst part. I don't know which was worse, men or women feeling unheard.
I don't know. It's a struggle.
It is.
The thing is, and I think both parties do this, right? Because you could think you're saying one thing to someone and they're interpreting it a different way. So I think there's listening and there's hearing. Yeah. Because the man's like, yeah, I heard you. But did you listen to me? Because the man is quick to say, I heard you. What did you really? What'd I say?
I don't like the way you interpret the way men are. I don't like your impersonations.
You don't like it?
Like, we don't always have that, like, Professor Clump. Like, that, it's just
Maybe I'm mocking you.
This just got personal, y'all. This is about to be some. Yeah, it got a little. Yeah, I feel like a throat chop right there.
Oh,
but that's
man.
Okay. That's all right.
But no, I think it's. Like you said, knowing your partner, because I know how critical you are of yourself, because I'm the same way. So I'm like, I'm going to let that baby pout for about 5 minutes.
It was a manly pout, by the way. It was a deep voice, and I think I grew a beard for a little bit.
No, it was not.
Can we call it a sulk? Maybe a sulk is. I think if we look up cinnamon, that sounds a little bit more.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, pout sounds like a little kid on the stoop. His daddy didn't show up.
That's what you look like.
Say, man, it's always personal shots being towards my direction.
Really?
I'm gonna get.
Hey,
I'm gonna get therapy after every one of these podcasts. That margarita.
I mean, I'm just saying. Listen. I'm grown. I pout too. I be in my feelings about stuff when things don't work out.
When you pout.
I don't.
You don't.
I shut down.
Yeah, you shut down.
I do. But I'm getting better at that, because when I talk, I talk.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I have
Let it
my
all out.
woosah moments. I grab your earlobes, and then that even aggravates you even more.
Oh
And that just
man.
makes me happy for some reason.
Does it?
Yeah, it just gets under your
That's
skin a
just
little bit.
wonderful. Really? That you
So
just
we
like to get
covered
under me.
financial. And by
Yeah.
the way, y'all, it's rodeo time in Houston. So if
Yeah,
y'all
that's
wonder
why he
why
look like a
I'm
cowboy.
why I'm over here looking like the ethnic version of a Brokeback Mountain episode, like it's
No,
not
you
that.
don't want to be
You
that.
don't want to be that. No, ma'am. That's a whole nother show. So in dealing with somebody's passing,
Yeah.
right? Like we dealt with that very early in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I felt like I thought that I was doing everything right. And in some moments I was. And in some moments I wasn't because we hadn't had those conversations.
Right.
So I went assumptive. So you've dealt with that on a major level.
Yeah.
What did you want from people, including, somebody that you were dating or friends?
Yeah. I think for me, like I said earlier, I wanted somebody to be present. And present does not mean, I have to see that person every day, but check in. Because I think when you lose someone, people may, condolences, sorry for your loss, whatever, 2 weeks, and then, you don't hear from anybody. You may hear from people a month after, 2 months after, but people fall off and they go back to their normal lives. But, I just think it's important to check in with people, and especially when you're dating, like that's a more intimate relationship. So checking in with that person and being present does not mean that I want to sit and talk about my loss all day. It could be getting a glass of wine. Let's just go to dinner. Just enjoy each other's presence, because I think people would be like they were on eggshells, like, well, I don't know what to say, and I think what I've learned in watching other people grieve and then from my own experience is that sometimes you just want people to just be there with you and listen, and it's not always about talking about that person, because sometimes, there are times where I'll be out and I won't talk about my sister at all. It doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about her, right. But I think grief is just something we're not taught to deal with. Yeah. You say your condolences, sorry for your loss, and then people disappear. And I remember I was talking to this guy, and there was one night where my grief hit me hard. Mm-hmm. And I was on the phone with him, and this was a long distance situation. And I said, I need to call you back. I just need a moment. And I'm the type of person, again, if I need space, I'll say it. You don't have to determine that for me. But if I need space, I'll say it. And that's with friendships or whatever. Because, again, I think people get this idea in his head, I'm giving you your space. And I'm like, that's not the right reaction for me personally. I want people to acknowledge that I'm there.
How did he respond to you?
So this is a crazy situation. So he was like, okay. So then I called him back, and he was like, I was like, I just had a moment, just a kind of grieving moment over my sister. And he said, okay. And then randomly he asked me, he was like, would you ever lie to me? And I was like, what? So you think that I didn't need space in that moment?
How long was
This is probably like another 2 week situation.
Okay.
After that, it was over. It was a wrap. But yeah, I was like, are you kidding me right now? I just told you. And I didn't need to call you back. But I said I would call you back, right, even though I wasn't in the headspace to. So, so again, people's reactions are different. And some people choose to distract themselves and not deal with and not go through the healing process of whatever it is. Like if you're like lost a job, for example, you come home and like you said, depression sets in, especially men, depressed, he's sitting at home, and it trickles down into everything, so it's just, like I said, for me, I think just being present, and that comes in a lot of different forms, but just people not forgetting about you,
You hit something really that we're not taught how to deal with grief and supporting somebody in that process. And so everybody has their different wants and needs. And a lot of times we will give somebody what we think we would want.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
But I think that
part.
Yeah, but I think that the conversation has to be had up front, regardless of what the loss is. Of hey, here's where I am. For example, even with right now, I'm going through. I'm lot of work. And so anybody that I'm dating, I'm letting them know, like, hey, I'm probably going to be a lot less available than I would normally be. So if that's going to be an issue, I need you to know that now.
Right.
Because this is where my focus is. That doesn't mean that I don't care about you or enjoy your presence, so forth, so on. But, we can get laser focused on work. And I think it's also fair to let the other person know so they don't think it's something that they did.
Yes, you have to communicate that.
Yeah.
And so, and if my mood has shifted, I usually say to someone, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
If it's a bad day with work, if it's, and that's the thing, too. That's the other part about being in a relationship, especially when you're married and you have to see that person.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to sacrifice your feelings and show up for that person.
Did you say have to see that person? Like when you're married, you have to, like, I got to go home to this dude. I wish my house was vacant, like, right now.
I mean, some people feel that way.
I think that some people is you. Like,
no. Listen, if you got the
you
right...
said, do I have to be around?
If you got the right partner, then it's not a big deal. I mean, hey, listen, sometimes you just need your space, okay? Come on. Let's be honest.
Okay.
You like your space.
I do.
So, now
can
I
we
lost my
segue to that?
train
No,
of thought.
because I think that's because we're talking about communication and what your needs are in a relationship. So when you need space in the relationship, whether it's
Say
through
it.
loss or whatever, is it because I've said it. It's not always well received because they think it's about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, you guys, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with what your partner's needs are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that comes down to understanding your partner.
Yeah.
Because we all we were raised differently. We all deal with grief differently.
Yeah.
We all deal with, okay, man, I messed this up. I don't need a pep talk.
Yeah.
I'm focused on here's how I fix it.
Exactly.
If I fail at something, how do I fix it? Because I want to operate in excellence and me failing, but that's also a major part of my process.
Yeah.
Because you will never be successful in something that you didn't fail at previously.
That's good.
Is that a bar?
Yeah, that was good.
I'm giving myself a bar.
Put that on a t-shirt.
But that's true, right?
Yeah, it is true.
We become better entrepreneurs because of what we've gone through in failing in other businesses.
Absolutely.
And so relationships are the exact same way. That's why I was like, I know that through everything that I've gone through, I'm going to be an amazing husband because I failed
failed before
miserably at some things before, but you learn through all those.
And that's the part. As long as you learn from it, because the idea is to do better.
Yeah.
You want to do better so that you can be a better partner, be a better friend, be a better, daughter, son, whatever. And so, but I think the other part of this is asking people about their communication styles, how they manage stress, because you don't want to be blindsided, and again, the older we get, I know for me, I have those conversations with people because we grown, it ain't no time for feelings being hurt.
Right.
And you know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm insensitive to people's feelings, but the thing is we have to have those hard conversations. Because at this stage, I'm thinking about a long-term partner. This is just not just a, fling or whatever. So I want to know, are we going to be able to make it through the hard times?
Yeah.
Because if you snapping over something little, whoop, yeah. It's not going to work. And one of my followers, she sent a book, actually, and it's questions to answer before you say I do.
Ah.
Yes. Janice J. Burton, shout out to you, girl. Thanks for sending the book. But, yeah, questions to answer before you say I do.
Wait,
and
did
so
Janice
I
just give us homework for our show?
I think she did. I'm like, you got to answer these questions,
Y'all got to do some homework today.
Right. I'm like,
oh, there's notes and everything.
What did I open this up to? Ooh, submission. That's a... that's a whole other show.
I love that
this
word.
Is good.
I love that word because a lot of times we deal with it inaccurately. The man's job is to submit to God.
Yeah.
The woman's job is to submit to man. And
exactly.
Talk about this. And so if she is submitting to him and he is submitting to God, then they are both submitting to the same God and they're on the same page. The
That's
problem
another show.
runs.
We gonna get into that, right?
Is that gender roles
That,
and all
it
that?
it
We
could be
scroll
gender
that. Yeah,
roles
that's on the-
because it says, "Do I submit to my mate? Do I view my mate as a queen and king?" You know, this is we don't have to go through this book.
I think we're just so quick to go negative nowadays
Yeah,
because
when
it's
people
such a
hear
swipe
certain
left
words,
society.
yeah, and when people hear certain words, you know, it's automatically seen as negative, like submissiveness and prenups. You know,
Prenup actually protects
it shouldn't
people.
be. That's what I'm saying. And
Like,
prenups
both
are done
sides.
in love.
Yeah.
Divorce is done. We don't like each other.
Look,
no more.
I'm gonna be honest with you. That's an evolution for me. So when I got married, and my financial guy was like, "Yo, you gonna get a prenup, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, no."
Yeah.
And my attorney was like, "You're gonna get a prenup, right?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
They're like, "Why? You've done this and this and this and blah, blah, blah." Look, at the end of the day, I want to be fully committed.
Yeah.
I want to be fully committed to this process so that way I'm not holding back financially, emotionally, physically, like everything. I'm all in.
Yeah.
Now,
He had the finger. He had to put the finger.
now it's different because it's not about because I have this and all that stuff. I want to set up everything to where it like there's a strategy to financial structures, and so I want to make sure that she's safeguarded. And if there's no prenup, then there's issues when it comes down to dividing assets, and I pass, and it's something that's in a corporation's name and this and that, and so the prenup actually helps with that. So it's not, and I was talking to my guy like, because I told him, he's like, "Man, you're gonna get married again," and because everything is set up a certain way.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, definitely doing prenup," and we talked about it.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Okay,
I think just people see it as such a negative thing, and that's something we can go into more another time. But it's again having those hard conversations. So you know,
are we ready for our favorite segment of the day?
You miss me with it? What you got?
Cue the. There we go. So, my miss me with it today is Jesse Smollett. And I don't think I ever say his name.
Jesse.
I put the just.
Jesse
Smollett.
Smollett.
Jesse Smollett. Okay. I'm going to Tarjay and
right.
Wildman
Jesse Smollett. But anyway.
Burger King. Jacques in the box.
Okay.
All right. I'm getting to the point.
Focus,
so
Jay.
my man got 150 days for the incident that happened.
Yeah.
From the beginning, I'm just going to walk it back like 15 seconds. From the beginning, it didn't make sense to me. I've been to Chicago. You from Chicago in the wintertime.
Exactly. Ain't
Nobody's just hanging out outside.
Yeah. No.
And if you are a white supremacist, you're probably not watching that show. It's not going to be
you don't know who that
you
man
on Fox
is.
News.
Right.
You're watching every Trump rally on repeat, whatever it may be. But you are not watching Empire.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just didn't make, like, the minute I just was quiet. Everybody was on social media like, I can't believe that. But it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day.
You going to Subway?
And who just hangs out with random bleach? And
and a rope.
And a rope, just in case a superstar on a show that you don't watch happens to walk by. So you can get that racial moment of your day.
Exactly.
Just, it's,
you didn't have anybody
and why
bring you
bleach?
Food, and nobody could bring you food at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. And who's hitting Subway?
I mean, right.
Who's walking outside to get Subway, when you were staying in a hotel that has room service?
Maybe he needed some air,
In Chicago, nobody wants that cold air. Y'all can keep that. Nobody wants that. So he got 150 days, which, I'm not the legal system. I'm not here to judge.
Yeah.
I think that was a little bit much in my personal opinion. Do I think that what he did was right? By no means. But there are people that are walking around scot-free.
He had folks riled up. You don't think that listen.
He did. He did.
Listen, that is a crime.
And the city spent a lot of money.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And investigating and all that stuff.
And backing him.
Yeah.
And
just to find out.
Yeah, just to find out this man framed.
Framed himself.
That
might be the first. That might be the first time somebody's actually gone to jail for framing themselves. I think that has to be. That's worse than the OJ going to jail for stealing his own memorabilia back.
Right.
That was just like, when you sold your own stuff.
But you sold it, right?
Fair enough.
Sold it as stole it.
So what are your thoughts?
I just think it's stupid. The whole situation is stupid.
There's another piece to it, though. So he had this outburst, and where he says, I am not suicidal. He actually spoke to the judge and told the judge he respected him.
Yeah.
And then, and they went through that process. So I think it's very interesting. I think he, but to me, and I never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But the suicidal part was like, oh, well, if something happens to me while I'm in here, then I'm telling you right now, I'm not suicidal. They can't claim it's suicide. Which to me sounds kind of more like the first incident in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Miss me with it.
Miss
me with it. It's just too much going on in the world to be doing all these shenanigans, and so I don't have it.
The unfortunate part is that he messed up his career.
Yes, it's like why would you do that?
You had a great career, bro. So
I mean, that's a poor publicity stunt if you're trying to do that. But you're on a popular show. There was no need for him to even do that. So,
but we talked about that last episode. Yeah. People that really need attention and the efforts that they'll go through. There's a lot of mental health stuff going on.
Yeah, there is. And that's another thing to talk about. If you got mental health issues, you need to tell your partner. Because I'm just saying listen, it's a conversation you need to have. Because listen, if you're on your medication, maybe we can work it out. But you ain't taking that medication, we got a real problem on our hands. Because there are a lot of undiagnosed mental illnesses out there. And then there are ones that have been diagnosed, but people are trying to keep it a secret. And that's not okay.
Fair enough.
That is not okay.
Well, I look forward to our next show that we have coming up.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, me too.
It's gonna be fun. We got a little serious on this one.
Yeah, we did.
This is, listen, but I feel like it's a topic that needs to be, and we personally dealt with that. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's a great topic to have, and we can get on to some of the fun stuff that we got.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
all right, guys. Well, we will see you back here next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central.
All right. Peace.
Bye-bye.